Jake Morrison's hands shook as he tried to fix the broken control panel. Red lights flashed all around him in the small ship. The metal walls groaned and bent as his ship fell through space toward the strange blue planet below. "Come on, work," Jake said to the machine. But nothing happened. The ship kept falling faster and faster. Jake had been flying alone for 3 months. His job was to find new planets where humans could live. He had found many empty worlds, but this blue planet was different. It had cities and ships flying around it. Someone lived there. The ship hit the ground hard. Jake's head hit the wall and everything went black. When Jake woke up, tall gray beings stood around him. They looked like humans but were much taller and thinner. Their skin was pale blue-gray and their eyes were completely black. They wore white clothes that looked like metal. "It is awake," one of them said. Their voice sounded flat and cold, like a machine talking. Jake tried to move, but his hands and feet were tied with silver rope. "Where am I?" he asked. "You are on Valthara." "You will come with us," another being said. They lifted Jake up and carried him out of his broken ship. Outside, Jake saw a world made of crystal and light. Tall buildings grew from the ground like giant trees made of blue glass. Strange vehicles floated through the air without making any sound. Everything was clean and perfect, but it felt cold and empty. The beings put Jake in a floating box and they flew toward the biggest building in the city. It was a tall tower that reached up to the clouds. The tower was made of white crystal that glowed with soft light. "What are you called?" Jake asked one of his guards. "I am called Veltar. We are Valthari. You are human," Veltar said. "You will meet the Empress. She rules all of Valthara. Why does she want to see me? Humans are strange. You feel emotions. This makes no sense to us. The Empress wants to study you." Jake did not understand what Veltar meant. Of course humans felt emotions. How could anyone live without feelings? The floating box carried them up the side of the tower. Jake saw the whole city below him. Everything was organized in perfect patterns. The streets made straight lines and circles. All the buildings were the same height on each street. Nothing looked random or messy. They stopped at the very top of the tower. The doors opened and Jake was pulled into a huge room made of clear crystal. He could see the sky and clouds all around him. In the center of the room sat a throne made of black stone. On the throne sat the most beautiful being Jake had ever seen. She looked like the other Valthari, but was smaller and more like a human woman. Her skin was pure white instead of blue-gray. Her long white hair moved even though there was no wind. But her eyes were the strangest thing about her. They were not black like the others. They were silver and seemed to glow with their own light. "I am Empress Xandra," she said. Her voice was different from the others. It was not flat and cold. It had music in it even though she spoke without emotion. "You are the first human to reach our world alive. I'm Jake Morrison. My ship crashed. I didn't mean to come here." The Empress looked at him for a long time. "Your kind is very strange, Jake Morrison. You make choices based on feelings instead of logic. You should have died out long ago, but instead you spread across the stars. This interests me." Jake stood as straight as he could with his hands still tied. "We're not strange. We're just different from you." "Yes, you are different." The Empress stood up from her throne. She was tall, but not as tall as the other Valthari. "My people evolved beyond emotions millions of years ago. We make all choices based on logic and facts. This is why we are strong. But how do you know what's right or wrong without feelings? Right and wrong are not real things. There is only what works and what does not work." The Empress walked down the steps from her throne. "I was born different from other Valthari. I was born without the organs that stop emotions. But I never learned to feel them anyway. My mind is pure logic." As she walked closer, the room began to shake. The tower swayed back and forth like a tree in the wind. Jake lost his balance and started to fall. Without thinking, the Empress reached out and caught his arm to steady him. The moment her hand touched his skin, something strange happened. The Empress's silver eyes went wide. Her whole body went stiff. She pulled her hand away fast and looked at it like it was burning. "What was that?" she whispered. Jake felt it too. Where she had touched him, his skin felt warm and alive. It was like electricity, but gentle and good. "I don't know," Jake said. "What did you feel?" The Empress stared at him. For the first time, there was something in her silver eyes that was not cold logic. It looked almost like fear, but also like curiosity. "I felt something. Something I have never felt before." She looked at her hand again. This should not be possible. The shaking stopped and the room became quiet again. But everything had changed. The Empress kept staring at Jake like he was a puzzle she needed to solve. "Take him to the study rooms," she told her guards. "But do not hurt him. I want to understand what just happened." As the guards led Jake away, he looked back at the Empress. She was still standing where she had touched him, looking at her hand. Jake had the feeling that something very important had just begun. Jake's new room was made of the same white crystal as the rest of the tower. He could see out, but no one could see in. The room had a bed, a table, and a place to wash. Everything he needed, but nothing more. He had been there for 3 days when the door opened. A woman with brown hair and tired eyes walked in. She wore the same clothes Jake had on, simple gray clothes that the Velthari had given them. "Thank God you're alive," the woman said. "I'm Dr. Lisa Chen. I was on your ship when it crashed." Jake jumped up. "Lisa? I thought I was the only one who survived. There are 5 of us left. They're keeping us in different rooms. I think they want to study us separately. Have you met the Empress?" Lisa nodded. "Yesterday. She asked me strange questions about human emotions. She wanted to know how feelings work in our bodies. I tried to explain, but she didn't seem to understand." Before Jake could answer, the door opened again. Feltar walked in with 2 other Velthari guards. "Jake Morrison, the Empress wants to see you again," Veltar said. Jake and Lisa looked at each other. "Can Dr. Chen come with me?" Jake asked. "No. The Empress wants only you." Jake was taken back to the crystal throne room. This time the Empress was not sitting on her throne. She was standing by the windows looking out at her city. She turned when Jake walked in. "Leave us alone," she told the guards. They bowed and left the room. The Empress walked toward Jake. He noticed she moved differently now. Before, she had walked in straight lines like a machine. Now her steps were less sure, like she was thinking about each movement. "I have been studying the reports about your species," she said. "Your Dr. Chen told my scientists many interesting things about human biology. What did you want to know?" "How do emotions work?" "My people cannot understand this. We see emotions as weakness. They make beings do foolish things." Jake thought about how to explain. "Emotions help us know what's important. Love makes us protect our families. Fear keeps us safe from danger. Anger helps us fight for what's right. But emotions also make humans do illogical things. You risk your lives for strangers. You make choices that hurt you to help others. This makes no sense, maybe not to you, but it's what makes us human." The Empress came closer. Jake could see that her silver eyes looked different. They seemed brighter than before. "When I touched you 3 days ago, something happened to me. Something that should not be possible." "What do you mean?" "My body had a reaction. My heart beat faster. My skin became warm. My mind felt strange. I have been thinking about it ever since." Jake felt his own heart beat faster. "Maybe you're more human than you think. That is impossible. I was born without the ability to feel emotions. My brain does not work the way other Velthari brains work. It works even less like human brains. But something happened when we touched." The Empress stopped walking. She was now very close to Jake. "Yes, something happened. I want to understand what." She reached out her hand slowly. "May I touch you again?" Jake felt nervous but also excited. "Yes." The Empress placed her hand on Jake's arm just like she had done before. Again, that warm feeling spread through both of them. But this time it was stronger. The Empress's eyes went wide and she made a small sound, almost like a gasp. She did not pull her hand away this time. "I can feel something. It is like electricity but warm. It makes my mind feel different. Less clear but also more alive." Jake looked down at her hand on his arm. Her skin was soft and warm. This is what humans call connection. When 2 people care about each other, they can feel it. Care about each other? The Empress looked confused. But we just met. Caring requires time and shared experiences. Sometimes it happens fast. Sometimes you just know. The Empress pulled her hand away and stepped back. She put her hand to her chest. "My heart is beating in a strange pattern. This is not normal for me." "It's not normal for me either," Jake said softly. At that moment, the doors burst open. Feltar ran in with several guards behind him. "My Empress, we detected strange energy readings from this room. Are you in danger?" The Empress turned to look at Veltar. Jake could see she was trying to make her face cold and emotionless again. But something had changed. Her silver eyes still glowed brighter than before. "I am fine. I was conducting an experiment. What kind of experiment? Veltar looked at Jake with suspicion. I am trying to understand how human emotions work. This requires direct study. Veltar's black eyes narrowed. My Empress, spending time with this human is changing you. I can see it. Your behavior patterns are different. This is dangerous. I am the Empress. I decide what is dangerous, but my lady, what if this human is somehow affecting your mind? What if he is making you sick? Jake saw anger flash in the Empress's eyes, the first real emotion he had seen her show. You question my judgment? I question the influence of this human. Perhaps we should limit your contact with him. The Empress was quiet for a long moment. Jake could see her thinking hard, like she was fighting a battle inside her own mind. You may be right, she said finally, but I need more data before I make that decision. I will continue my studies for now. Veltar bowed, but Jake could see he was not happy. As you wish, my Empress, but please be careful. After Veltar and the guards left, the Empress turned back to Jake. He is not wrong. You are changing me. I can feel it happening. Is that a bad thing? The Empress touched her chest again where her heart was beating. I do not know. Change has always been dangerous for my people. We have stayed the same for millions of years. It has kept us safe. But maybe it's also kept you from growing, from becoming more than you were. The Empress looked at Jake for a long time. You make me want to understand things I have never cared about before. This feeling you call connection, I think I am beginning to feel it too. That's not a weakness. That's strength. How can feelings be strength when they make me want to do illogical things? Like what? The Empress's voice became very quiet. Like trust you even though you are a stranger. Like want to see you again even though it confuses me. Like feel lonely when you are not here. Jake's heart ached for her. She looked so lost and confused. Those feelings mean you're alive. Really alive, not just existing. But if I am truly alive for the first time, what does that mean I was before? Jake stepped closer to her. Maybe you were waiting. Waiting for someone to help you discover who you really are. The Empress looked into his eyes. And you think you are that someone? I don't know. But I'd like to try to find out. For the first time since Jake had met her, the Empress smiled. It was a small smile and she looked surprised by it, like she didn't know her face could make that expression. This is very strange, she said, touching her own lips. But also, nice. That's what we call happiness, Jake said. And it's just the beginning. Jake woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of someone crying. He sat up in his crystal room and listened. The sound was coming from somewhere above him. It sounded lost and scared. He had been on Valthara for 2 weeks now. Every day the Empress came to see him. Every day she seemed more human and less like the cold ruler she had been when he first met her. But today had been different. Veltar had taken Jake away for questioning by the military. A scary Valthari general named Kixmore had asked him many questions about human weapons and ships. Jake had been away from the Empress for the whole day. The crying sound came again. Jake pressed his hand against the crystal wall. Hello? He called softly. Are you okay? The crying stopped. Then he heard a voice he knew well. Jake? Is that you? It was the Empress. Yes, are you crying? There was a long pause. I do not know what crying is, but water keeps coming from my eyes and I cannot make it stop. Jake's heart broke for her. You're sad. That's what crying means. Sad? I do not understand this word. It's what you feel when something hurts your heart, not your body. My heart does hurt. It has been hurting all day since they took you away. I kept thinking you might not come back. Jake pressed his whole body against the crystal wall, wishing he could hold her. I'm here now. I'm safe. When you were gone, I felt empty, like part of me was missing. Is this normal for humans? When you care about someone and they're not with you, yes. It's normal. I care about you, the Empress said quietly. I did not know this was possible for me. I care about you too. Jake heard her moving closer to the wall. Jake, something is happening to me that I do not understand. Last night I had strange pictures in my mind while I slept. You had a dream. That's normal too. In this dream, you and I were walking together in a place with green plants and blue sky. You were holding my hand and showing me things I had never seen before. When I woke up, I felt happy but also sad because it was not real. Jake smiled in the dark. Dreams can be wonderful. They show us what we want. I want to be with you. Is that wrong? No, it's not wrong at all. The next morning, Jake was taken to see the Empress again. But this time the throne room was full of Valthari officials. Veltar stood next to the throne with a worried look on his gray face. The Empress sat on her throne, but she looked different. Her silver eyes were red around the edges, like she had been crying more during the night. When she saw Jake, her face brightened a little. "My Empress," Veltar said formally, "the Council has concerns about your recent behavior." "What concerns?" the Empress asked, but she was looking at Jake, not at Veltar. An old Valthari with white markings on his face stepped forward. "You have been spending too much time with the human. It is affecting your judgment. Yesterday, when the human was taken for questioning, you demanded to know where he was every hour. I was concerned for the safety of a valuable research subject. You showed anger when we could not bring him back immediately. Anger is an emotion. Emotions are dangerous." Jake saw the Empress's hands tighten on the arms of her throne. "I am still your Empress. I make the decisions here." General Kixmore stepped forward. He was bigger than the other Valthari and had scars on his gray skin. "My Empress, the human and his friends are dangerous. They are changing you. We should destroy them before they damage you further." "No." The word burst out of the Empress before she could stop it. Everyone in the room turned to stare at her. Jake had never heard her voice sound so strong and emotional. The Empress stood up slowly. "I mean, that would be wasteful. These humans have valuable information." "The information is not worth the risk," General Kixmore said. "Look at yourself, my Empress. You are becoming like them, weak and emotional." Jake saw something he had never seen before in the Empress's silver eyes. Real anger. "I'm not weak," she said, her voice growing stronger. "I am growing. I am becoming more than I was before." "You are becoming corrupted," Veltar said sadly. "The humans are like a disease. They are spreading their emotional sickness to you." The Empress walked down from her throne. She moved differently now. Not like a machine, but like a living being with feelings and purpose. "What if emotions are not a sickness?" she asked. "What if they are a strength we never learned to use?" The whole room went quiet. This was the first time any Valthari had ever suggested that emotions might be good. "My Empress," the old Valthari said, "you are not thinking clearly. Please let us help you. We can remove the human influence from your mind." "How?" "By destroying the source. Kill the humans and your mind will return to normal." Jake saw the Empress freeze. Her silver eyes went wide and she looked directly at him. In that moment, Jake knew she was making the most important choice of her life. "No," she said firmly. "I will not allow you to harm them." General Kixmore stepped toward her. "My Empress, I am sorry, but you are no longer thinking like a Valthari leader. For the good of our people, I must take action." He made a signal to his soldiers. They moved toward Jake with weapons in their hands. "Stop," the Empress shouted. But she did not just shout, she moved. She stepped between Jake and the soldiers. "I am still your Empress. You will obey me." "You are no longer fit to rule," General Kixmore said. "The humans have made you weak." Jake watched in amazement as the Empress's whole body changed. Her silver eyes blazed with light. Her skin seemed to glow. When she spoke, her voice had power in it that Jake had never heard before. "You think emotions make me weak? Let me show you how wrong you are." What happened next was incredible. The Empress raised her hands and the crystal walls of the throne room began to shine. The light grew brighter and brighter until everyone had to cover their eyes. When the light faded, half of the soldiers were on the ground, stunned. The Empress stood over them, breathing hard but triumphant. "Emotions do not make me weak," she said. "They make me powerful in ways you cannot understand. They give me something to fight for." She turned to look at Jake. "They give me someone to protect." General Kixmore and the remaining soldiers backed away. "This is not over," he said. "The people will not accept an emotional Empress. There will be war." "Then there will be war," the Empress said. "But I will not go back to being the cold, empty creature I was before." After the soldiers left, the Empress collapsed into Jake's arms. She was shaking from the effort of using her new powers. "I did not know I could do that," she whispered. "You did it because you had something worth fighting for," Jake said, holding her close. "Yes, I had you to protect, and in that moment I felt more alive than I have ever felt in my whole existence." Jake looked into her silver eyes. "What happens now?" "Now we find out if love is stronger than fear," she said. "Because I think I am falling in love with you, Jake Morrison. And I think that is going to change everything." The war began 3 days later. Jake stood next to the Empress on the top of her crystal tower, watching ships fill the sky. Half of them flew the silver flags of the Empress. The other half flew red flags, the sign of the rebellion. My own sister leads them, the Empress said sadly. She pointed to a large red ship. Tixandra was always the perfect Valthari, cold, logical, emotionless. She thinks I have become sick. Jake took her hand. Over the past few days, touching had become natural for them. Each time they touched, both of them felt stronger and more complete. You're not sick. You're finally alive. But look what my being alive has cost. The Empress waved her hand toward the city below. Half of the crystal buildings were dark. Their owners had joined the rebellion. My people are fighting each other for the first time in 1,000,000 years. Change is always hard, but sometimes it's necessary. Dr. Lisa Chen ran into the room. She looked excited and scared at the same time. Your Majesty, we've discovered something amazing. When you and Jake touch, both of your brains light up on our scanners. You're sharing thoughts and feelings. What does that mean? The Empress asked. It means humans and Valthari can bond in ways we never imagined. You're not just learning emotions, you're creating something new together. Before anyone could respond, alarms began ringing throughout the tower. Feltar rushed in. My Empress, rebel ships are attacking the lower levels. And there's something else, human ships have appeared in orbit. Jake's heart jumped. Human ships? A full rescue fleet. They're demanding the return of all human prisoners. The Empress closed her silver eyes. So now I must fight a war on two sides. My own people think I'm corrupted and your people think I'm holding you prisoner. Let me talk to them, Jake said. I can explain what's really happening here. It may be too late for explanations. An hour later, Jake stood in the crystal communication room. On the screen in front of him was Captain Maya Stone, the leader of the human rescue fleet. Behind her, he could see President Helen Martinez, the leader of all human colonies. Jake Morrison, Captain Stone said, are you being held against your will? No, Captain. I'm here by choice. That's impossible. Our reports say the aliens on this planet have no emotions. They're using you for experiments. It's complicated, Jake said. The Empress is different. She's learning to feel emotions, and when we're together, something amazing happens. President Martinez leaned forward. Jake, you've been gone for 3 weeks. We've been worried sick. Are you saying you don't want to come home? Jake looked back at the Empress, who was standing quietly behind him. She had told him he was free to leave whenever he wanted. She would not try to stop him. I'm saying that something important is happening here, something that could change both our species forever. Son, the President said gently, you might be suffering from something called Stockholm Syndrome. Sometimes prisoners begin to feel connected to their captors. This isn't Stockholm Syndrome. This is real connection. When the Empress and I are together, we can feel each other's thoughts and emotions. We become stronger together than either of us is alone. Captain Stone shook her head. Jake, that sounds like science fiction. So did faster than light travel before we figured it out. At that moment, explosions shook the tower. The rebellion had reached the upper levels. We're running out of time, the Empress said. Jake, you should go with your people. You'll be safe with them. I'm not leaving you. The logical choice is to leave. I cannot win a war against both my sister and your people. Since when do you make choices based on logic alone? The Empress smiled sadly. Since I learned that some things are more important than logic, the communication screen crackled. Jake, President Martinez said, we're detecting massive energy readings from your location. What's happening down there? The Empress has powers that activate when she feels strong emotions. When she's fighting to protect someone she loves, she becomes incredibly powerful. Someone she loves? Jake took a deep breath. She loves me, Madam President. And I love her. The silence from the human ships was deafening. Finally, President Martinez spoke. Jake, are you telling me you've fallen in love with an alien? I'm telling you I've fallen in love with someone who happens to be from another world. Someone who was born without the ability to feel, but who learned to love anyway. Another explosion rocked the tower. Through the windows, Jake could see rebel soldiers fighting the Empress's guards in the hallways below. Jake, Captain Stone said urgently, we need to get you out of there now. The whole building is under attack. Not without the Empress and the other humans who are still here. The aliens won't let us land to rescue you. Jake had an idea. What if I could arrange a meeting? What if you could talk to the Empress directly? A diplomatic meeting? With all this fighting going on? Love makes impossible things possible, Jake said. Let me prove it to you. He turned to the Empress. Can you stop the fighting long enough for a meeting? I can try, but my sister will not listen to reason. Then we'll have to give her something she can't ignore. Jake took the Empress's hands in his. Immediately, he felt the warm connection between them grow stronger. The Empress's silver eyes began to glow brighter. What are you doing? She asked. I'm showing your sister and my people what we've discovered together. When we connect like this, we become more than just two people in love. We become proof that different species can join together and become stronger. The glow from the Empress's eyes spread to her whole body. Then it spread to Jake. Soon both of them were shining with silver light. Dr. Lisa Chen, who was monitoring them with her instruments, gasped. The energy readings are off the charts. You're broadcasting your connection across the entire planet. The fighting in the hallway stopped. Through the windows, Jake could see people in the city looking up at the tower in amazement. Every Valthari on the planet can feel what you're feeling right now, Dr. Chen said. They're experiencing emotions for the first time through your connection. On the communication screen, President Martinez and Captain Stone stared in amazement. What we're seeing is impossible, Captain Stone whispered. No, Jake said, still glowing with silver light. What you're seeing is the future. A future where humans and Valthari work together, where emotion and logic combine to create something better than either one alone. The Empress squeezed his hands. I can feel them, she said in wonder. I can feel my people opening their minds to emotions for the first time. Some of them are scared, but others are curious. And what about your sister? The Empress closed her eyes and concentrated. She's fighting it, but even she can feel the connection. She's beginning to understand that this isn't a disease. It's evolution. The doors to the communication room opened. Tixandra walked in, but she was not leading soldiers. She was alone and she looked confused and amazed. Sister, she said, what have you done to me? I can feel things. Strange things I have never felt before. I have shown you what it means to be truly alive, the Empress said. Tixandra stared at Jake and her sister, still glowing with their shared connection. This human, he has changed you completely. No. He helped me become who I was always meant to be. Tixandra was quiet for a long moment. I came here to stop you, to save our people from this emotional infection. But now I think I understand. This is not a disease. This is a gift. Does this mean the war is over? Jake asked. Tixandra looked at the communication screen where the human leaders were still watching in amazement. I think it means the war is just beginning to change into something else. Something better. A new kind of war, the Empress said. A war between the past and the future. And I think the future is going to win. 1 year later, Jake stood on the bridge of a new kind of ship. It was built by both humans and Valthari working together. The walls were made of human metal and Valthari crystal. The controls could be operated by either species. Next to him stood Empress Zixandra, but she was no longer called Empress. Now she was called Co-Commander, and she shared leadership of their new joint mission with Jake. Are you ready? She asked him, taking his hand. Jake squeezed her fingers and felt the familiar warm connection flow between them. I'm ready. Through the big windows of the bridge, they could see something that had never existed before. A fleet of ships with both human and Valthari crews. Some ships carried families who wanted to start new lives on planets where both species could live together. Co-Commander Jake, Dr. Lisa Chen called from her station. We're getting reports from the new colonies. The children born to mixed families are amazing. They have human emotions and Valthari logical abilities. How many colonies are there now? Jake asked. 15, with more being planned every month. The volunteer program for Valthari Emotional Awakening has a waiting list of thousands. Jake smiled. When they had first announced that Valthari could choose to have their emotional dampening organs removed, most of their people had been scared, but when they saw how happy and alive the Empress had become, more and more wanted to try it. And what about those who choose to stay as they were? Zixandra asked. They're still important parts of our society. We need both kinds of thinking, emotional and purely logical. The colonies that work best have both. President Helen Martinez appeared on the communication screen. She was smiling, something she did a lot more often now. Jake, Zixandra, the Colonial Council has approved your request. You can begin exploring the Andromeda Galaxy. Thank you, Madam President, Jake said. We'll send reports as soon as we find anything interesting. After the president signed off, Zixandra turned to look at their crew. Half were human, half were Velthari. Some Velthari had chosen emotional awakening, others had not, but they all worked together perfectly. My sister sends her regards, Zixandra said. The home planet is doing well. The Civil War ended completely last month when the last traditionalist groups agreed to join the new government. How is she handling being the new leader? She's learned to balance emotion and logic just like we have. She says it's harder than pure logic, but much more interesting. Ambassador Rachel Torres walked over to them. She had been working for months to create the laws that would govern the mixed colonies. Co-commanders, we've received a message from an unknown species in Andromeda. They've been watching our fleet approach and they want to meet with us. Jake and Zixandra looked at each other. This was what they had hoped for. The chance to show other species what humans and Velthari had learned together. What do we know about them? Zixandra asked. They seem to be very old and very wise. But our translators think they've never encountered species that work together the way we do. Then we'll have a lot to teach them, Jake said. The ship's engineer, Danny Foster, called out from his station. Co-commanders, all systems are ready for the jump to hyperspace. Jake looked around the bridge one more time. A year ago, he had been a simple explorer who crashed on an alien world. Now he was co-leading the most important mission in human and Velthari history. Zixandra, he said quietly, do you ever miss the old days? When you were the all-powerful Empress and didn't have to worry about feelings? She thought about this for a moment. Sometimes I miss how simple everything was, when I only had to think about logic and efficiency. But I would never go back. Before I met you, I was not really alive. I was just a very advanced machine. Now I am a living being with hopes and dreams and love. Even though love makes everything more complicated, especially because love makes everything more complicated. The best things in life are never simple, Jake. Young Velthari volunteers who had chosen emotional awakening were working alongside human crew members at every station. Jake watched a Velthari woman teaching a human man how to use crystal technology while he taught her about human poetry. This is what the future looks like, he said to Zixandra. Not humans conquering aliens or aliens conquering humans, but both species learning from each other and becoming something better together. The old Empress would have said that was inefficient, Zixandra said with a smile. The new me says it's the most beautiful thing in the universe, Danny Foster announced. Jump to hyperspace in 30 seconds. Jake and Zixandra stood together at the front of the bridge, still holding hands. The warm connection between them had grown stronger over the year, not weaker. Now they could share thoughts and feelings even when they were apart. 20 seconds, Danny called. Through their connection, Jake could feel Zixandra's excitement and anticipation. She could feel his courage and determination. 10 seconds. The crew around them, human and Velthari, emotional and logical, different but united, prepared for the journey to unknown worlds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jump. The stars outside the windows stretched into lines of light as the ship leaped across space faster than light itself. They were heading toward a new galaxy, carrying with them the most important discovery in the history of both their species. That love really was a universal force that could bridge any gap. As they traveled through hyperspace toward the unknown, Jake thought about how it had all started. He had crashed on Zixandra's world by accident. She had been a cold, emotionless ruler who had never felt anything in her life. Now they were partners in every way that mattered. They had learned that being different didn't make them enemies. It made them stronger together than either could be alone. What are you thinking about? Zixandra asked through their mental connection. I'm thinking about the first time we touched, and how everything changed in that moment. Do you think we would have found each other if your ship hadn't crashed? I don't know, but I'm glad we don't have to find out. So am I. The ship continued through hyperspace, carrying its mixed crew toward new worlds and new adventures. Behind them, they left a growing alliance of planets where humans and Velthari lived and worked together as equals. But more importantly, they carried with them the proof that the universe was not divided into us and them. Sometimes, if you were brave enough to trust and love, them could become us, and us could become something better than either had ever imagined alone. As Jake looked out at the streaming stars, he knew that whatever they found in the new galaxy, they would face it together. The solitary Empress had learned to love, and her touch still made his heart tremble. Not with fear, but with joy and the endless possibility of what they could accomplish together. The future was unknown, but it was theirs to discover side by side, heart to heart, across all the stars and all the galaxies yet to be explored.